Somewhere between who you were born to be and who you became, someone handed you a smaller version of yourself and told you that it was safer, more appropriate, more manageable, more lovable. And because you were young, because you needed them, because belonging felt like survival, you took it and you folded yourself down and you learned which parts of you were welcome in which rooms and you left the rest of yourself in the car. You got so good at the edited version that after a while you couldn't always find the original. You started to wonder if the original was even real or if it was just some kid who hadn't learned yet that the world had a size limit for people like you. This episode is about finding the original, not the version that you used to get approval, not the version of you that got the gold star, kept the peace, made everyone comfortable, stayed safely inside the lane that was assigned, the actual version. The one that knew things before it was told to stop knowing them. The version of you that felt things fully before you were told to dial it back. The one that wanted things, big, specific, unapologetic things before you were taught that wanting too much was dangerous. That version of you did not disappear. It just went quiet. And this is the episode where we bring it back. Welcome to the Listen Bitch podcast, Rebellion season. I believe we're on episode 8, okay? 8 episodes in. I am Brandon Lynette, in case you guys are new here. But I've really, every episode I wanted to just continue to build towards some of the most important things since the very hook of the season, because everything, you guys, the food, the money, the relationships, the spiritual warfare, the parenting, the discipline, everything eventually comes back to this. Who do you actually believe who you are? Not the official answer, the operating answer, the one running underneath all your decisions, all your limits, all the places you stop yourself just before the thing that could actually change everything. We've been peeling layers back all season, and I think this is a root episode. So, for the people in the room with brains like mine that are wired to kind of feel this kind of thing in their whole body before your logic catches up, I want you to stay with me, okay? Because this one is going to move through you before it makes complete sense. And I need you to understand that's fine. Let it. The understanding will come. And for everyone else, same instruction, just stay with it. This show is still looking for sponsors, brands that are actually aligned with health, sovereignty, truth, and integrity, not just a product looking for an audience. Okay. I want alignment first. So you can reach out to me at brandonlynette.com. Make sure you guys get resourced in my show notes. I am taking a shot a day to keep the doctor away. Okay. If you want to know about that. And yeah, it's not the kind of shot that involves a needle or a poke, because in spite of what you think with all the tattoos, I am terrified, terrified, terrified of needles going into my skin. And tattoo machines are very different. So I'm not a fan of the comparison. But this shot is actually the real deal. So a shot a day keeps the doctor at bay, and that's part of the rebellion. Get my shot. Okay. So first question, you guys, let's get into this show today. Who told you that you were too much? And I'm asking you directly. Like, listen, bitch, I want you to actually answer this question. Not in the abstract, but specifically. Answer that. Who was it? Was it a parent who maybe needed you to be easier to manage because their own life was already at capacity? Was it maybe a teacher who read your intensity as a discipline problem instead of a signal that you needed more than the curriculum was offering? Was it a religious environment that told you your questions were dangerous or your doubts were faithlessness? Your hunger for something real and deep was pride? Was it a peer group, friends that punished visibly, that had a social tax for standing out, for being certain, for taking up the kind of space that made other people comfortable with their own smallness? Was it a partner who needed you smaller so they could feel bigger? Or was it the culture itself, the steady background hum of a world that says, women should be agreeable and men should be stoic and nobody should be too much of anything that isn't immediately useful to someone else? I have to put my phone on Do Not Disturb because I have squirrel brain. Thanks for your patience with the interruption. But listen, this answer matters. And it's not so you can spend the rest of your life in the story of what happened to you. That's not where I'm going with this. The answer matters because you are currently making decisions from inside a belief system that was installed by someone or something with a specific agenda. That agenda was not your flourishing. And you cannot question a belief you've never traced to its source. You cannot dismantle a wall you think is just the edge of the room. You were not too much. You were too much for that specific environment at that specific moment for people who had specific limitations, bullshit limitations of their own that had nothing to do with you and how much space you were taking up in the room. The problem was never you. The problem was the container. And you've been trying to fit a calling-shaped life into a fear-shaped container ever since. And then you wonder why it doesn't fit. And you've concluded that the problem must be you. Bitch, it was never you. And this is how good people end up in the wrong life. Nobody wakes up one day and decides to live the wrong life. It doesn't happen in a dramatic moment of a bad choosing. It happens in the accumulation of small yeses to things that were fine, not wrong, not catastrophic, just fine. And small no's to the things that were true. The career that made sense on paper, the relationship that checked the right boxes, the version of success that your family recognized and celebrated, the life that was safe enough and good enough and responsible enough that there was never one clear moment where you could have said this is wrong. Just a slow drift, one reasonable decision at a time, away from the thing you actually were and toward the thing everyone needed you to be. And the drift is insidious because it is so quiet. There is no alarm. There's no warning light. There's no obvious moment of betrayal. It is just a gradual accumulation of distance from yourself, and it shows up eventually as a hollow quality underneath a life that looks completely fine from the outside. The burnout that doesn't make sense because you should be grateful, right? Be fucking grateful. The restlessness that arrives after the promotion or the milestone, after the thing you worked for finally lands and it doesn't feel the way you thought it would. The creeping suspicion arriving in the quiet moments in the car at the 3 a.m. wake-ups. That you have been very diligent about building a life that was never actually yours. And this is the moment most people decide they are ungrateful or broken or spiritually deficient. They have everything they were supposed to want, and they are not as happy as the having it was supposed to make them. So they conclude the problem is them, their inability to be satisfied, their restlessness, their unwillingness to just be content with what they have. And they medicate the feeling with, busyness, with consumption, with the next goal, with numbing, anything to outrun the quiet voice that is trying to tell them something important. And the voice is not ingratitude. That voice is not selfishness. That voice is alignment calling. It is the part of you that knows and that has always known what the fuck you are actually for. And it has been trying to get your attention for longer than you've been willing to acknowledge, because acknowledgement means you have to do something about it. And doing something about it means everything changes. And everything changing is terrifying, especially when everything that's already there is just perfectly fine. Fine is not what you were put here for. Fine is the drift's preferred destination. Fine is where callings go to die quietly, surrounded by responsible decisions and the approval of people who needed you to stay exactly where you are. And burnout is not a workload problem, because the way burnout gets diagnosed in our culture is almost entirely wrong, and it keeps people stuck in the wrong solution. Burnout is not caused by doing too much, okay? It's not. And I know because I do a fucking lot, and I'm not even close to burnout. It's caused by doing too much of the wrong thing for too long. That distinction matters enormously because the prescription is completely different. If burnout is a workout problem, the solution is less work, more rest, better boundaries around time. And rest helps, boundaries help. But if you go back to the same misaligned work after the vacation, you're going to burn out again on the same schedule because the rest did not fix the root. You guys, the root is misalignment. The exhaustion of performing a version of yourself that is not the real one. The energy cost of sustained inauthenticity, of showing up every day to work that does not connect to what you actually are, to a role that fits like someone else's shoe, to a version of success that was designed around someone else's values. That kind of exhaustion does not respond to rest. It responds to realignment, to getting radically, brutally honest about what is actually draining you and why, to asking the question most people are afraid to ask. What would I do if I were actually free to choose? And my brain, for anybody's brain who is like mine, we are wired to hyper focus, to go all in, to pour everything we have into what we're doing. Misalignment is particularly expensive for us because you are not capable of half-hearted. When you are in, you're fully in, which means if you are fully in the wrong thing, you are burning your best fuel on a destination that was never yours. The same intensity that makes you exceptional when you're aligned is going to destroy you when you're not. Because you cannot moderate what you do. You can only change what you aim it at. And the question that interrupts the burnout cycle is not how do I do less? It is what am I doing this for? And it is actually worth what it's costing me. Not worth it to your mortgage, not worth it to your LinkedIn profile, not worth it to people whose approval you've been quietly organizing your whole life around, but worth it to you, to the real you, the one underneath the performance, the one who came in with a calling and has been navigating the distance between that calling and the current reality for longer than you want to admit. And then we have y'all living someone else's definition of success. And this is the one that is wrapped in so much legitimate love and legitimate gratitude that it's kind of hard to call it out. Like you built what they wanted for you, or you built what the culture said success looked like, or you built what you thought you wanted before you knew yourself well enough to know what you actually wanted. And the people who love you are so proud. And parts of it are genuinely good, and you're genuinely grateful for it. And also, it is not the life, not the full one, not the one that was actually inside you waiting to be built. Living someone else's definition of success is one of the most common and least discussed forms of low self-abandonment. Because it doesn't look like self-abandonment, it looks like achievement, right? It looks like responsibility. It looks like being a good son or a daughter or a spouse or an employee. And the people around you, the ones who needed you to want what they wanted for you, will never recognize it as loss. They will celebrate it, and the celebration will feel like both affirmation and erasure at the same time. You will not have language for that feeling, and you will tell yourself that you're just being ridiculous. But you're not just being ridiculous. You're experiencing the specific grief of having built a life that fits someone else's version of you, while the version God had for you has been waiting patiently in the background. Never ascended, never expired. It's just still there every time you get quiet enough to feel it. The call forward is not an invitation to blow up everything you've built and abandon everyone who loves you. It's an invitation to get honest with yourself first and then with God about what is actually true for you. What parts of the current life are genuinely yours and what parts are borrowed? What needs to stay and what needs to change? What the real version of your success actually looks like, named in your own words, free from the influence of anyone whose approval you've been quietly trying to earn this whole time. That conversation is the beginning of coming home to yourself. And it is one of the most courageous things a person can do. Not because it requires like some dramatic action, but because it requires radical honesty in a world that is actually benefiting from you staying comfortable in someone else's story. And when it comes to the story of fear of failure versus fear of success, you really need to know which one is running you. And it took me a really long time to get to the truth of this. And if you're like me and a lot of other people, you assume that your fear is of failure. That maybe you're not moving towards the calling because you're afraid it won't work. That the vulnerability of trying and being wrong, of being seen, of being judged, of being, putting the real thing out there and having it rejected, that's what's keeping us still, right? And for some people, I do think that's very true. But for a significant number of us, more than we'll easily admit it. But this was my story. It's true. The fear that is actually doing the heavy lifting is the fear of success. The fear of what happens if this works. The fear of who you become if the calling actually lands. The fear of the visibility, the responsibility, the changed relationships, the new version of yourself that success requires you to become. The fear that people who love the current version of you will not know what to do with the new one. The fear that becoming who you were meant to be means leaving behind something or someone that you're just not ready to leave. Fear of success is quieter than fear of failure because it disguises itself as shit like perfectionism, as not being ready, as responsible caution, as humility. It says things like, I just want to make sure the timing is right and I don't want to move too fast and I need to think about this more carefully. It keeps you in the preparation phase indefinitely. It lets you do all the work of getting ready without ever making the move that would require you to actually become the person that you're preparing to be. And here's how to tell which fear is running you in this moment right now. Ask yourself what would actually change if this worked, if it really worked. Full version, real impact, the thing you've been imagining in the quiet moments. Who would you have to become and what would you have to let go of? Who in your life would be threatened by it? What version of yourself would have to die for that version to live? If the answers to those questions produce more dread than excitement, you are not primarily afraid of failure. You're afraid of what success requires of you. And that fear is worth naming. It's worth sitting with. It's worth bringing to God because it is one of the most honest prayers you can pray. I can see where you're taking me and I'm terrified of who I might have to become to get there. God, help me. And then there's this moment where you actually have to choose yourself. And it comes for everyone who is serious about the calling. It comes the moment where the path forward and the path of least resistance diverge clearly enough that you cannot pretend they are the same road anymore. Where staying requires something it didn't used to require, an active, conscious choice to stay small rather than a passive drift. And moving forward requires choosing yourself in a way that is going to cost you something real. I don't know what the price is. It might cost you a relationship, not because you become someone unlovable, but you become someone who can no longer be managed. And some relationships were built entirely on your manageability. It might cost approval from a parent, from your adult children, from a community, a version of your professional identity that people had gotten attached to. It might cost the comfort of the familiar, the safety of the known, the identity that was built inside the old room, even if the old room was never the right size. And again, this isn't one of those dramatic moments when it arrives. It does not come with a cinematic music or a clear neon sign from God that today is the day. It comes quietly in ordinary circumstances, and it asks a very simple and very hard question. Who are you going to keep choosing? Their comfort over your calling? Are you going to keep editing yourself down to fit a life that was built around a version of you that was never the whole version? Or are you going to choose today to stop making yourself smaller and start making yourself real? Choosing yourself does not mean you're selfish. It does not mean abandoning your responsibilities or dismissing the people who love you or burning everything down to start over from scratch. It means deciding that the real version of you, the full, unedited, calling-aligned version deserves to exist. That the world does not need another performance of a person. It needs an actual person, and the actual person is you. Underneath the editing, the filters, underneath the management, underneath the years of making yourself fit in rooms you outgrew a long time ago. Jesus chose his calling over comfort constantly. He chose truth over approval and moment over safety, the real thing over the safe version every single time. And he was not unaware of the cost. He knew. He counted it clearly and he chose anyway. And he's not asking you to be painless in your becoming. We're in the fucking arena. We're going to get our ass kicked. All he is asking right now is that you are going to be faithful, to choose the real version of the life over the comfortable version of the performance, to trust that the cost of choosing yourself is survivable and that the cost of not choosing yourself is the whole thing. It's time you name who the fuck you actually are. You are not too much. You're exactly the right amount for the life you were actually designed for. And that life is bigger than the one that you've been living inside. You are someone with a specific, particular, unrepeatable combination of experience, wiring, calling, and capacity. There's not another human in this world like you. Your mission is yours alone. And the things that have been called problems, the intensity, the sensitivity, the inability to do things halfway, the way you feel everything at full volume. The refusal to be satisfied with shallow when you could feel deep is available. These are not the liabilities. This is the equipment. They are what make you capable of the specific things you were put here to do in a way that no one else can ever, ever, ever replicate. You cannot be replicated. This neurodivergent brain of mine that cannot maintain comfortable mediocrity, the sensitive person who feels the room before they walk into it, the one who asks the questions nobody else will ask because they cannot tolerate the pretense of an answer that doesn't hold, the one who burns hot and builds fast and loves hard and refuses to perform when the real thing is available, those are not problems to be managed. Those are gifts, and they're meant to be aimed. And the calling on your life, the specific thing that God put you here to do, that he has been trying to get your attention about through the restlessness and the drift and the burnout and the hollow feeling under the correct life, that calling did not come with conditions. It did not come with a size limit or an approval requirement or a wait until you feel ready clause. It came with you as you are right now in the life you actually have. You do not have to earn your way to it. You do not have to fix every wound first. You do not have to become the fully healed, perfectly consistent, entirely unafraid version of yourself before God can use what you are. And he has a long history of using exactly who shows up. Broken and available beats perfect and withholding every single time. So, Brandon, where do we actually start? Again, I have a question for you. And I want you to answer this in writing, privately, with as much honesty as you can access right now. Who told you you were too much? Who fucking said it? With words and actions, name them. Name what they said or what they communicated without saying. And then I want you underneath that to write what it's actually cost you to believe them. What did you stop doing? What did you stop wanting? What version of yourself went quiet because of it? And name the cost. You have been paying it for a very long time without examining the invoice. Second thing, identify one place where you are living someone else's definition of success. Just one area of your life that belongs more to someone else's version of for you than to your own. And you do not have to change this today. You just have to name it honestly, because the naming is what begins the reclaiming. Third, I want you to take one action today that the edited version of you would not take. One moment of being the unedited version. Say the thing that you've been not saying. Create the thing that you've been not creating. Show up somewhere as the full version of you rather than the managed version. It's just one action today, small enough to be survivable, but real enough to mean something, because the original version of you does not need to be rebuilt from scratch. It just needs to be practiced. And practice starts with one rep. You were not too much. You were never too much. You're exactly enough for the life that was always waiting for you. Go live it. 8 episodes. This one. This is the one I really wanted to bring to you in the very beginning, because all of it, like, I'm just building toward the single truth. And that truth is, in the season of rebellion, you are who God said you are. Not who the wound said, not who the room said, not who the drift produced, who God said. And that version of you, the real, full, unedited, called, aligned version, is worth fighting for. That version's worth choosing, and it's worth the cost of becoming. If this episode cracked something open in you, if you felt the original version of yourself stir somewhere underneath the edited one, do not let that pass without honoring it. Write it down, sit with it, bring it to God, and take the step today toward the version of yourself that has been waiting. I need you to like the show. I need you to subscribe, leave a written review. It takes 2 minutes, and it makes a real impact. Someone out there has been carrying too much in their label for their whole life, and they need to hear this conversation. Your review is the only way they're going to find it. Don't be a selfish hoe, okay? Go to brandonlynette.com, plug into everything happening this season. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm still not quite up to 300 followers, and my goal is 500. So I need your help there. Watch the full video versions of this, okay? You're not too much. You were always the point.